Hello, everyone, and welcome to a quick little Thursday Night Football recap. We usually wait a few days to do these, but Stan the Jet fan is here to join us for the Thursday Night Football recap, and it was a bad game for the Jets. Not great. Fire Robert Saleh was trending on Twitter during the game. Brees Hall looked all right. There was a lot of questionable calls, I think, in my opinion, on the offensive side for the Jets. And the Browns just looked amazing in the first half of that game and kind of just took the game away from the beginning. So they ended up making the playoffs as well. That was an important part of this. So, Stan, what were your kind of just brief overview of what we saw tonight?
Well, to start off, I mean, the first and second half showed completely different versions of the Jets defense. What they gave up, 31 or 27 points or something in the first half of that game. I think Joe Flacco got close to 300 yards, and in the second half, he threw, I think, under 10 or 20. Like, he threw very few yards. So, two very different halves for the Jets here on defense, and it was the biggest crack I've seen in this Jets defense this season. We've seen games where it's gone up to 30 points on the other side, but somehow the Browns score the most, the first team to reach 37 points against the Jets this season. Not only that, you think about their offense and what they brought to the table, they're considered a very defensive team. The Eagles, a very offensive team. The Dolphins, a very offensive team. We've played us twice. Haven't been able to score as much as the Cleveland Browns somehow. So I think for the Cleveland Browns, this is a very big victory and right at a perfect time. You know, they don't really have any tough games left. This is the way to go out, to win the season, to get into the playoffs. And it looks very good. I think it bodes well for them going into the playoffs now that they have that guaranteed wild card spot, and they look very good on offense.
Yeah, I just to correct some things here, and this is just part of nothing being scripted. The Browns actually scored 34 points in the first half, which is the most points in a first half for the Cleveland Browns since 1935 when they scored 35 points versus the Lions in the NFL Championship. So we're going back to before World War II. That's how long this has been. And like you mentioned, that Jets defense is usually very strong. We usually don't see that kind of scoring on them. And that first half, it just looked like they did not come to play. I was very surprised. Joe Flacco has been doing great with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper wasn't there, so he had to kind of turn to someone else. And for the moment, it was David Njoku. And then Jerome Ford also got busy in the passing game. The former Jet, Elijah Moore, we also saw a little bit of him. He did get injured there, though, at the end of the first half. And that could have added to why they weren't as effective in the second half. Some key injuries, though. You brought up all their injuries that they have going into the playoffs. Deshaun Watson's obviously injured. Nick Chubb. And then on the O-line, they have Jack Conklin out. Jedrick Wills out. DeJuan Jones, who is a rookie but is a stud. Their wide receiver kick returner, Jakeem Grant. And then on defense, Ogbo Akorano. I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry. Safety Grant Delpit. Safety Rodney McLeod. Defensive tackle Maurice Hurst. Linebacker Jacob Phillips. That's just from a few weeks ago. Obviously, Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore were also out now. Zadarius Smith got injured at the end of that game. Those are injuries to monitor. Trevor Siemian. What did you see from Trevor Siemian? Did you like what you saw from Trevor Siemian?
You know, I thought he did a fine job. I mean, he's coming in as, the fifth, maybe sixth quarterback to play for the Jets this season. He definitely played above that level. I'll say that much. In regards to his throws, he had one really bad throw that was an interception in that first half. And with that throw, it was a designed play. It was designed to go to Garrett Wilson, and it was simply he did not do a good job. Simeon did not do a good job of reading the defense and knowing that wasn't the right pass. The design play was not the right pass. So that was his big mistake. Outside of that, he did a decent job. The thing is, for Trevor Siemian, his job is to feed two guys, Brees Hall Garrett Wilson. And he did a decent job at that. Outside of that, I didn't really see anything I liked. One thing is he should have thrown to Conklin more. Conklin was open on a lot, and the Browns linebackers didn't do a great job in coverage a lot. So if you threw to Conklin a few more times, maybe you could get the ball a little bit further down the field. Maybe you get a field goal here and there. So that was one big issue there. I think to curl back to something you just now mentioned, but with those injuries, Conklin and Jack Conklin on the Browns, and then Willis Jr. On the Browns, those are their two starting tackles, and I have to pull up their names, but Jaron Christian and James Hudson III, the two tackles who filled in for them and have been playing at this point of the season for the Browns, have done a great job. And against this Jets edge rush group, which are very good, I mean, you saw Jermaine Johnson go off in this game, and he went off last game too. They did a great job of holding up to them, and I think that's one of the big things for the Browns, why they're succeeding so much in offense, because their O-line feeds the ball, makes the correct plays to allow the running backs to get through, and gives Flacco enough time in the pocket.
How do I want it? You mentioned in our text that you thought that the O-line was the key to this win, and that's what you're kind of alluding to right now. Do you think that the O-line really just is what stopped the Jets pass rush, and that just hurt the secondary so much they weren't able to keep up in the first half?
Well, I mean, to say stopped the Jets pass rush, I don't think that's the correct way to think of it. I think really they gave Flacco the time he needed, right? Flacco, he can make his reads, he could do his plays. He's I think probably the most experienced quarterback, or at least up there in the league right now, in terms of playing and getting into the playoffs and being in big moments. So I think for Flacco, what I saw there was he had enough time to get the ball off. It wasn't so much that the pass rush was negated, but Flacco had enough time to deal with that pass rush.
I will say Flacco was also getting the ball out very quickly. There were some throws where they were timing him at less than a second, which is absolutely insane to get through your reads that fast when your wide receiver one is out. Do you have any concerns with the defense? Because the New York Jets have sucked all season, especially since Rodgers went down. And the one thing we've said all season is, yes, their offense is bad, but their defense is good. That first half, the defense was just awful. They did have a few turnovers that they created that the offense did nothing with. But did that first half worry you about with the Jets defense and what you'll see these last two or one game?
There's one more game left, and that's quite frankly, the only game left is the only one I really care about. I'm fine losing against the Browns because at the end of the day, we get a slightly better draft position. But that Patriots game, we haven't beat Belichick since 2015, right? This is likely Belichick's last game with the Patriots. So for me as a Jets fan, that's what I'm concerned about. In regards to the defense suffering, I'm not too concerned about that for two main reasons. One, I think a lot of it was due to bad play calling, which I haven't really seen from the Jets defensive coaches, from Ulbrich. But I noticed for a lot of those bigger plays, what you had there was the Jets running man coverage and not having zone coverage to deal with the tight end slants. And that's really what you saw from David Njoku. It was a lot of slants, a lot of very simple design plays that are designed for 8 yards, but because you had man coverage, and Njoku, he's not only a big tight end, he's very fast for a tight end. Mm-hmm. So he was able to get past linebackers and take the ball on some very long trips down the field. So I think it was really a coaching issue early on. And you saw in the second half, when the coaches made adjustments, our defense looked great. 3 points that the Browns were able to score in that second half, I'm happy with that. That is a very good Jets performance. But it should not take 2 quarters for the coaches to make adjustments to be able to read the offense. And that is a little bit of a concern, because Ulbrich, at the end of the day, was the coach on the Jets I'm most confident in.
So let's look at the other two coaches. You mentioned the defensive coordinator is the coach you're the most confident in. Offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. Something I thought was really weird when I noticed the game, and I don't know the percentage of how much it was called, but it seemed like it was a lot. A lot of games a lot of plays that either develop behind the line of scrimmage or were just long developing plays, which just seems like a really bad call to me when you're facing Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith and your O-line has been playing the way that it has, which I know you think the O-line's a little bit better than I do, but...
Oh, no, I don't. I think this is the worst O-line I've ever seen.
Oh, okay. So we're on the same page now. I know a few weeks ago you were like they're not as bad as you think they are, but okay, we're on the same page now. So, what did you think about that play calling though? Calling these plays like these jet sweeps or where the wide receivers running and they're flipping and it's just everything's happening behind the line. It just seemed like bad strategy to me.
I think to a certain extent, Hackett's trying to catch up, if that makes sense. I think Hackett knows that he's probably the least popular now that Canada's fired offensive coordinator in the league. And I think maybe he's trying to force a little bit too much. I can't imagine, he in those two Dolphins games, watching the Dolphins offense work, that he didn't feel mesmerized by it. Because I know I feel mesmerized every time I watch the Dolphins. So perhaps he's trying to pull something from their playbook, from their style of play. I think the main issue is though we don't have exactly the wide receivers and the running back rooms to make that work. When they see Garrett Wilson line up at quarterback, the defense knows what's going on. It's not really as much of a surprise when you compare it to the Dolphins, who have like 17 different guys who can do things on the field. So I just think it's a situation where Hackett was trying to push the team a little bit too hard. I think for the most part, I actually liked Hackett's play calling. I usually don't at all, but this is one of the games I was more confident in, except in the final quarter. I think the final quarter he let a lot of it escape him. But one of the big things I really enjoyed with him was he took advantage of Garrett Wilson. He gave Garrett Wilson the ball a lot in that first half. And I think I don't know if Seaman was more worried about Wilson in the second half, and maybe that's why you only saw, I think, one or two targets, or if that was Hackett's decision. But that was one issue with the play calling I had. I wish they continued that into the second half.
Okay. Final thing. Woody Johnson has said, hey, we're not firing anyone on the coaching staff. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be the guy. They're all kind of using Aaron Rodgers as their safety net right now. But the Jets fans don't really seem to care. Like I said at the beginning of this, Fire Robert Saleh was trending on Twitter. Are you with Fire Robert Saleh? I know you have changed your mind on quite a few things since we last spoke.
Yeah, this is definitely the most negative I've felt about Saleh since he's been here, and I still like him as a coach. But to me, and to what I would say to the other Jets fans is, here's the deal. Now it's fire Saleh. It used to be fire Gase. Before that, it was fire. I'm blanking on his name, but there's that other coach we had for 2 years. And it seems like every 2 years since Rex Ryan, basically, we're cycling through head coaches. So I do not mind keeping Saleh specifically because we have Aaron Rodgers. At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is the second, third best quarterback to play in this century, right? He is right at the top there. Yes, he's old. He's not going to be as sprite as he is. But even look at the stats from his last season. They're not terrible stats. They were bad for Rodgers standards, but they weren't terrible stats. So I say keep Saleh. Let him do his thing. At the very least, we have a great running defense, and that is what Saleh was brought in to do. The main thing I need to see is actually from the front office in terms of bringing in the talent to the offensive line. Because, you've seen Laken Tomlinson come in, and then Laken Tomlinson looks nothing like what he looked back in with the 49ers. Looks so much worse. I remember the draft pick for Carter Warren, and that was a puzzling draft pick because Carter Warren, everyone knew he would need 2-3 years to develop. We're a win-now team. So it seems like that front office is really what I would blame and what I'm the most angry at. Now, in regards to Woody Johnson saying no one's getting fired, at least in regards to defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, head coach, I agree. I don't want any firings right now. I don't think that would help us for next season. But I do think we should get a new offensive line coach, right? For more of those positional groups that tend to struggle, get some coaches in there. And actually, the Callahan, the coach for the Browns, who has made this great offensive line, he used to be with the Jets too.
You can't have him. If he's leaving the Browns, he's coming down to Cincinnati. His son is our offensive coordinator. Bengals need a new offensive line coach. Pollock's got to get out of there. He used to be the Jets offensive lines coach. But yeah, I think that this was a great game for the Browns and a wake-up call for the Jets in a lot of ways. Not that the Jets thought that they were this amazing, unstoppable team, but even this defense that everyone's been lauding about still needs help. So, did you have any closing remarks? We're getting here on that 15-minute mark.
Not really. I mean, for the Browns, if you're a Browns fan, get excited. I mean, this shows you what your team should be able to do in the playoffs.
Yeah, Joe Flacco has me split. I'm supposed to hate him, but I really like the story. So, congrats, Browns fans. I know it's hard going that long without playoffs, and the first time you made the playoffs recently was during COVID, so you couldn't really embrace it. So, I'll give it to you, I guess. But we're coming for you next year. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching that video, guys. If you want to check out a most recent full episode of No Buts About It, that's going to be right over here. Yeah, right there. Check that out. And if you just want to see more short clips, we're going to have one right over here for you to watch. Check out No Buts About It on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts, so you can listen to us on the go. Once again, have a great day and go do something nice for someone.